Live or die? What do you prefer? But that might be a loaded question for some people. I think for all of us, we prefer to live. But what we prefer to live. However, to die for God is easier than to live for God. Because to die, it's a one-time deal. To give up your life for the Creator. But to live your life, that's day in, day out. That's not so simple. That's not so easy. We have learned that when the Jew is put to the test of faith, they will martyr. For the most part, there will be martyrdom, as we've seen in the last 2,000 years. Jews will die, even though they didn't live for God. That's the unusual thing. Why? Because of the chachma of the soul, the chachma that animates the soul is beyond intelligence. It is a vessel, a container of the infinite of God, the Or Ein Sof. And on that level, there is no other reality but God. And therefore, the Jew has been put to the test of faith by many a religion, many a nation, and for the most part, have stood strongly because the truth of their soul emerges, and the truth of the soul is that you don't want to be disconnected from your identity as a Jew. You don't want to be disconnected from God. And therefore, even though Jews did not live for God, they, lived their own life throughout the centuries. You had those who did live for God. We're talking about those who didn't, though. Yet when it came to the test of faith, they gave up their lives readily without making a calculation. I'll give up my life. I'll get more in the afterlife. No, because the Jew wants to live, doesn't want to die.
But even when they appear to renounce their faith, they still kept the
Right. So as we know in Spain and in other places, exactly, that sometimes openly they renounce their faith in order to keep alive. But secretly they were practicing Jews.
It's happened now for the last few decades that their descendants.
Some of their descendants, right, are now have been touched by their soul and moved to find the inner makings of their soul, which is a Jewish soul, and leads them to wanting to convert, right? So some people that actually convert are people who are Jewish. But it's been so many generations, right? Mother after mother after mother, daughter after daughter after daughter, that they don't know that they're Jewish because they weren't raised at all as being Jewish. And therefore, halachically, they have to go through the process because there's no proof of it, but soulfully it's there, right? But, they don't know it. We don't know it. Therefore, they go through the process of conversion according to halacha. Yes. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, come to you from Chabad Tzurich in Kadesh, Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We begin chapter 20, which starts a journey based on chapters 18 and 19 that we defined the Jewish soul of Chachma, power of nullity, the power of what? Beyond intelligence, the source of intelligence, but beyond intelligence, that leads to faith, and giving up your life for God, as we've explained at great length in the past. But that's not the point. That's not where the Alter Rebbe wants to bring us. That we should, live a life that ultimately will die in martyrdom because our faith is so attached when it comes to the crucial test of faith. That's not the point. That's not the point of Tanya. The point of Tanya is, how do you live with that, not die with that? And that's where we're going to go through the next 5 chapters to give us an evolved way of understanding and thinking about your divine soul, your Ava Misateris, the hidden love that's in that soul, and how to find that hidden love that's in the soul, to live with it in a way that you don't have to die for God and reveal the core essence of your being. Okay, so we begin. So it's well known that the positive commandments to believe in the unity of God and the rebuke concerning idolatry, they are the first 2 commandments. I'm the Lord your God, from the 10 commandments. And you shall have no other gods before me. So it's written that is in the entire Torah. That I am the Lord your God is positive commandment. That is the entirety of the 248 positive commandments of the Torah. Like putting on tefillin, keeping Shabbos, right? And so on. Whereas there should be no other gods contains in it all of the 365 prohibitions of the Torah. And that's why the Jewish people on Mount Sinai, they only heard 2 commandments. People think they heard the 10 commandments. They didn't. They heard 2 commandments. The first and second. Why? Because the first incorporates all of the 248, and the second incorporates all the 365 prohibitions. And that's the entire Torah. In other words, those two, you have the entire Torah, right? In other words, we heard the entire Torah when we heard those 2 commandments, because it encapsulates it all. Therefore, if one is motivated by love for God, they will obey the 2 commandments, even at the expense of their life. And now that needs to motivate us to serve God in all of the commandments, to live life and to serve with it. Now, we need to understand, how is that so? That's a big statement that was just made. In other words, traditionally, the way it's been understood before Tanya is that the first commandment, I'm the Lord your God, is the basis of God being able to command you. In other words, if you don't accept me as your God, then you need to accept the king as king. And after you accept the king as king, then what? Then you can accept his command, his rule, right? But if you rebel against the king being king, then where's his command? So first we have to accept God as king. He is our ruler. I'm the Lord your God. That's what the first commandment is. And then that will be able to lead us to fulfill all of the other commandments as a result. But that's not what we're saying over here. That's the traditional way of understanding I'm the Lord your God, right? But here we're saying differently. We're saying that I'm the Lord your God is an encapsulation, is incorporating, is the entire 248 positive commandments. It's not leading to it. It is it. How is it? How does that make sense? It leads to it. How does it incorporate all of it? How is it all of the 248 commandments? The notion that I'm the Lord your God, and the notion that there should be no other gods. The second commandment is not leading to 365 commandments. You'll follow his command, right? Like the king, you accept the king, and then you'll accept his commands. No, it encapsulates, it incorporates the entire 365 commandments. So the first two commandments are the entire Torah, not leading to the fulfillment of the entire Torah. They are the entire Torah. How so? How could that be? Does that clear the question?
Yeah.
Yeah? Shemalev, the question's clear?
Yeah.
Yeah? Clear? So we need to elucidate this matter clearly. First, we have to speak about the idea of what is the unity of God? What does it mean when we call God one and unique? Yochid im yuchid. We all believe that God is one and alone, right? Even after creation, God is exactly the way he was before he created the world. Before he created the world, he was one and alone, correct? How is he after created the world? Guess what? He's one alone. This is what we say in our prayers every single morning in davening. We say before we begin Hoidu, one of the paragraphs we say that you are he who was before the world was created, and you are he who is since the world was created. What does that mean? Well, how do we understand that? So Alter Rebbe explains, in other words, God has not changed. God has not changed. He creates the worlds, supernal worlds, spiritual worlds, this physical world, and yet there is no change. He is one single unique before, one single and unique after he creates the world. But how's that so? Hey, I'm talking right now. You're here right now. There's galaxies here. There's things here. What does it mean that he was one and alone and unique before? That we get. But now, vous benich, as we say in French. For those who know French well, as Rashi's old French. Where am I? Where are you? Well, we are not. It's as if we are absolutely of no existence. How so? What does that mean? So we will understand this, and this is going to take now a lengthy explanation that begins in this chapter, but will continue in forthcoming chapters, of the notion of creation, right? That everything that comes into existence, higher worlds, lower worlds, are nothing before God. In the manner, not in the manner of a human being. A human being is a craftsman. He fashions a silver goblet. Just pretend I've got a silver goblet here. And I fashioned it. How did I do that? I took some malleable silver and formed it into a goblet. Did I create a goblet? Leslie? Did I create a goblet? No, I didn't. I formed a goblet. I didn't create a goblet because I took something that was there and I made it into something else in that form, but I didn't create. I didn't create. Create, the word creation means that there wasn't there before, and now it is. How's that? How's that possible? That's what it means that God creates with his word, right? He creates with his word and the breath of his mouth. He creates the goblet with his word, right? That he imbues the physical object with his word. It becomes a source of vitality for the created thing. And as long as the word is there, it exists. Take the word out, it reverts to its original source of what? Nothingness. Nothingness.
Which is how do you find out?
No thing. We don't know.
But that's in Hashem because
Right.
nothing can be separate from Hashem because He is everything.
right? But with this, then we can understand how we're no thing because Eve, right? And we're going to go into this idea. We just started with this, right? So even the something that we are is really only the word of God that is animating us to be, to exist. And we only exist because of that word. So much so that if God were to take away the word, we would revert to the original nothingness where we originally came from, right? It's the middle of a thought which will be continued, God willing, in forthcoming classes, which I'm looking forward. All right, folks, we shall continue our conversation, a very important one, so we can learn what it means to live with the divine in a way that we don't merely just die in martyrdom with that closeness, but in every moment we can have that closeness.